Instinctively nomadic and musically inquisitive, Animal Collective's Noah Lennox first stepped out with the Panda Bear moniker back in 1999, and since then, his musical development has been as puzzling and as pleasing as that of Animal Collective itself. Noah Lennox has long stood as another mysterious and timid figure in Animal Collective. His music gives this impression just as well, as his voice is oftentimes drowned out in layers of sounds and samples that almost give you an idea of what it's like to be inside of his head. As Drew Gurian of the Red Bull Academy puts in an article about Lennox, the range of sounds and the lack of predictability in Panda Bear's music is certainly still there, as is the sense for glorious Beach Boys harmonies amidst loops and noises going insane, and the transformations from record to record. What's going on, guys, and welcome to part 2 of A Guide to Animal Collective. In this video, we're going to talk all about Panda Bear, aka Noah Lennox. This is definitely a video that I'm super excited to make because Panda Bear, just like Avi Ter, has like a very big place in my heart as far as like his musical abilities, his musical talent, and just like an overall person I have a lot of respect for. So let's go ahead and jump straight into some facts about Noah Lennox. So Noah Lennox, aka Panda Bear, was born on July 17th, 1978, and he was born in Charlottesville, Virginia. At first glance, Noah Lennox doesn't seem like a figure that would have so much of a voice behind him. Lennox started to build himself a resume of varying projects at this point of his career, each distinct in their own way. Projects like Young Prayer to the most recent Crosswords EP have highlighted how Noah Lennox tends to think in layers and with the dependency to be revealing with music. In an interview with Red Bull Academy, Noah Lennox elaborates on how projects like Young Prayer and Animal Collective's Sung Tongues have captured his introspection. Lennox states, "As I've grown older, I feel less interested in expressing myself in that way. I would assume that having children has something to do with it. I've thought a lot in the past couple of years of how even though I feel like introspection is a positive exercise, there's a threshold. There's a point after which introspection transforms into narcissism, or it becomes a self-obsessive exercise." But a better way to get an understanding of how Noah Lennox came to be is to dive into his early life. Lennox grew up in the Roland Park section of Baltimore, Maryland, and attended the Waldorf School of Baltimore through 8th grade and Kimberton Waldorf School in Chester County, Pennsylvania for high school. His family moved frequently during his early years owing to his father's studies to become an orthopedic surgeon. As a youth, he played sports, mainly soccer and basketball. And his brother, Matt Lennox, was a leading player on the high school basketball team, and Noah was also a team member, playing as point guard. Noah Lennox has also stated in interviews that he enjoyed drawing a lot as a teenager, especially pandas, and later started drawing pandas on his early mixtapes. He also studied piano until he was 8, then cello, and later on he sang tenor in his high school chamber choir. Though he and his family have never been very religious, Lennox briefly attended Boston University where he majored in religion because of his interest in the concept of God. Though Lennox has yet to still express a straightforward belief in a God, the concept and curiosity of a higher being still remains a common theme in interviews with Lennox. As a teen, Noah began listening to electronic music styles such as house and techno, all of which became a major influence on his later work. He recorded and performed music solo and with friends, and Lennox started using the name Panda Bear because he drew pictures of pandas for the artwork of his recordings. Lennox had been friends with Deacon, aka Josh Dibb of Animal Collective, since the 2nd grade. Deacon introduced Lennox to his high school friends Avi Ter, or Dave Portner, and geologist, aka Brian Wheats. For years, the four of them swapped homemade recordings, shared musical ideas, and performed in different group configurations. Lennox, along with Deacon, moved to New York in 2000, and eventually the group started to crystallize their chemistry and eventually settled on the group moniker Animal Collective. Since the 2007 releases of Panda Bear's Person Pitch and Animal Collective's Strawberry Jam, he has focused more on using samplers and other electronics in their shows. He named Black Dice as a major influence, stating, "Black Dice took us on our first tour, and I feel the wisest things I've learned about being in a band, I learned by watching them." He said he looks to Black Dice as a model for a band. "I feel like as a band, I can't speak for the other guys, but certainly for myself. like I modeled the way I approached to everything with the band watching the way Black Dice did it. In addition to singing, Lennox played drums and occasionally played guitar in Animal Collective's live performances. He cites Stuart Copeland as his biggest influence on his drumming style. Across many interviews, Lennox has made it a point to express how his environment tends to be his biggest influencer. Today, Lennox resides in Lisbon, Portugal, and in the same Red Bull Academy interview, Noah gives us a better understanding of how Lisbon in particular has shaped projects like Panda Bear Meets the Grim Reaper and Mr. Noah. He goes on to state that, "I think being in Lisbon has influenced my music in a big way, but it's very difficult for me to talk about how it's exactly done that. As a creative person, I think environment plays a big role in what gets spit out on the other side. I think as creative people, we can't help but leave clues and details about our environment and what we experience, what we think about in the stuff that we make." I'm sure Lisbon has made its way into the song, but it's not as easy for me as saying, "This song sounds really sunny," and I'm sure that's because I'm in Lisbon, which is a sunny place. I made one album that feels very sunny to me, then the next album, also made there, sounds very austere and dark and serious, which clashes a lot with the idea that I have a Lisbon environment. So although I'm sure there has been an influence, it's very difficult for me to trace in any sort of explicit way. I think Noah makes a very big point in pointing out how environment can really just inspire his music. Over the years, I can tell that the sort of like grungy and sort of staticky sound of early Animal Collective was just showing how like early Animal Collective was in their career. Their early sound is chaotic and staticky and just very loud and all over the place, and honestly contains some of like the hardest music to get into. But it just goes to show that it was because 4 different minds came together to make music that they all thought was very experimental and unique in their own way. So when you break down Animal Collective, then you see that individuals like A.V. Terror and like Noah Lennox, and then moving on to Geologists, all have their own way of approaching the experimental sound. Noah in particular has always been like one of the most introspective figures for me in Animal Collective. In interviews, he states how he spends a lot of time in his head, and I think he does a really good job at translating that sort of characteristic of him through his music. Noah Lennox's use of samples, and honestly just how well and how competently he uses them, reminds me a lot of figures like Kanye West that really relies on samples as well to project a certain message. And even though Noah Lennox isn't trying to project a message all of the time, he is trying to project a feeling in most cases. Which is why for me, Noah Lennox's music just projects a lot of like the same feelings that I've gone through, but not only that, putting my feelings aside, it projects different aspects of the experimental sound and the direction it's going in today. Taking into consideration Noah Lennox's just like knowledge of experimental music and his knowledge of very strange and unique instruments, it's no surprise that Panda Bear has started to trademark his own sound and has also managed to brand himself in a way where his music is very abrasive but also very soothing at the same time. Much respect to Noah and the genius mind that is behind his music. But ultimately, guys, this has been a very quick guide to Noah Lennox, aka Panda Bear. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about Noah's music. Do you personally have a favorite Panda Bear track or a favorite, I guess, like Animal Collective moment by Noah? If so, leave it down in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to like and subscribe. I have a video on Geologist, aka Brian, coming out very, very soon. And if you haven't checked it out already, make sure to check out the video on A.V. Terror. Thank you guys so much for the feedback and overall just like motivation to move through the rest of the series. I will catch you guys in the next video.